obviously it's been a bit of an intense year in regards to Vladimir's feelings with regard to cheating and some of the things that he says that obviously we don't agree with.
Yeah, but I feel like I'm in a movie Don't Look Up,
One of the things that used to be held against us, it's not sexy enough.
It's not sexy. It's not sexy at all.
That's not how the chess world works. Because you know what makes people freaking watch chess? Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura, Jan Nepo, like these are the people that drive eyeballs, right?
Sometimes I'm sure that this guy cheats. I mean, and we see that.
Zagavor, there's no conspiracy here. That's not true. Why would you say that? What is the motivation of that? While you're claiming Zagavor over here, you're claiming conspiracy and some sort of plot that would take like all of these people that apparently chess.com is controlling and paying to cover up what exactly?
Я не понимаю. I don't know what's happening, really.
It's okay.
It's a mystery.
This is going to be a podcast with really fun outtakes where we just keep having sound issues.
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
honored.
Sure.
That was a podcast with a friend for a very short period of time. But if you watch Coffee House Blunders, then this one's for you.
Yeah. But also the name is fantastic. Coffee House Blunders. I mean,
yeah, it was perfect because he was a friend that got me into, like, he kind of made me a coffee snob. Before that, like everyone else, I just, like, Americans, when they drink coffee, they just suck it down, and it's like everything else. They just go. But he was like, no, like, you gotta, like, appreciate coffee. So he got me on a whole subscription, taught me how to do a pour over, and it's like a whole, like, meditation process. So he was the friend who got me into, like, coffee. Now it is true, I have 1 cup of coffee a day. It's, like, really good. It's the good shit. Like, it's, like, good stuff. And obviously the Blunders is, like, a fun, Coffee House Blunders is, like, a good chess fun, right? So I thought it was.
Yeah, but
creative.
You said you drink 1 coffee per day?
Yeah, that's it.
How do you do that? I mean, how do you drink? You either drink 5 or don't drink at all, no?
I know, but that's the thing about when you dive into the world of, like, you make it a whole process, right? So, like, okay. I have, like, a special kettle, and I grind the beans, and I do a whole thing, and I do a pour over until it blooms, and you do a whole thing. So by the time you have your coffee, you've been doing it for a half an hour, and you're exhausted.
you don't want anything.
Yeah, at that point, you're just like, I'm just going to drink 1 cup of coffee. So anyway.
So, Danny, tell me, please, the first thing and the most important one. What the fuck is Chief Chess Officer? What does it mean?
Oh, my gosh. You are poking the bear of a title we have to consistently explain. It's like when I tell people my last name, I always have to spell it. I say Danny Wrench, R-E-N-S-C-H, no W. I say this every store, every time, because it's weird. So when I say Chief Chess Officer, they look at me and I go, it's kind of like being a chief content officer, but it's also in many ways for a long time probably would have been considered our chief growth officer, as what I was doing was attempting to oversee avenues for us to grow, whether it was our partnership early on with Amazon, which was Twitch, and then things we pursued with YouTube. So it was that. And then Eric would refer to me as, like, he's kind of like the co-CEO, because he basically just oversees the entire chess world side of the house. Eric is overseeing product and engineering and the roadmap, and ultimately the one who was guiding our suite of, apps and all the stuff, right? And I was on everything that falls into the house of community, content, media, and of course the areas of events, which of course is fair play, and all the things that affect the professional community kind of fell on my plate. And so at some point, he suggested it. It wasn't my idea, because a lot of people referred to me as the COO, because in many ways I was just very operational. And one thing, if you look at chess.com's org chart, I don't even know that our org chart is, I think it's on, like, our about page. There's no COO. We've never really had a COO because Eric and I kind of did that. And so I'm not trying to claim all those titles. We're actually trying to properly build and scale the company now and get a proper CMO, maybe someone to be the proper, like, chief content officer. Ultimately, we actually just made a hire for someone in the chief growth officer lane, which these days the title growth and business are kind of interchangeable. So ultimately, we don't want to be there, but I think in many ways he and I shared a lot of duties, and so call me COO or CCO, probably most appropriately if we were comparing to other companies.
No, I like that. Chess officer is fantastic. It's you've seen that there's a movie called Downfall about Hitler. I'm sorry, and and they usually do some funny stuff with some episode from this where Hitler is a rage, he's something bad is happening, he's shouting at his generals or something, and there are a lot of funny stuff that they've done with this scene from the movie. And when you
I've seen that.
You've seen that.
Yes,
when it's like chief chess officer, what the fuck is that? What the fuck?
Okay, I saw this one actually. This was one of the ones they did
about Kramnik.
I was going to say it was either about a Kramnik or Hikaru. They've made fun of Hikaru. They've made fun of Kramnik. They've made fun of I think there was one they did of Levy, but anyway, it was. I've seen it.
Okay, so you are in the company, you're responsible for everything connected with the game of chess, yeah, with chess players, with grandmasters, with everything that they need your expertise in the field, right?
I guess so. And again, it was kind of an accidental thing. I've been here since I was 23. I'm 38, so it's been 16. I'll be 39 soon. So it's I'll be 39 actually in 3 days. My birthday is October 10th, 10/10. So yeah, it kind of grew organically, and I would say that chess is much bigger than the traditional chess community, and that's one of the things we've learned. And so I don't think it's fair to say that I oversee everything chess. I think a big part of what we try to do is, make the game as accessible as possible to people who are on the fringe of, am I going to become a regular chess player or not? And I think there's a lot of things to do in that area that I would argue Eric and the team have been, way more qualified to oversee in some ways. But yes, I think in regards to the chess community, in regards to the content that we serve, the events ecosystem that was sort of built and stood up, and then all of the creators and kind of the professionals, that world is my side of the house. Ilya, I can't hear you for some reason. Yeah. We should keep this in the video. It's a good blooper, I can't hear. All of a sudden his sound died. If they do keep this in the video, I'm just going to say hi to everybody. They're just chilling here. I used to speak a little bit of Russian. I spent my summer as when I was 16 in Russia, but unfortunately, I did not commit to staying as a So otherwise, I would say something, but we're gonna let Ilya. This is actually great. You guys have got to keep this. This is a great outtake right here. You guys have got to keep this. Igor, can I go heat up my coffee a little bit? I'll be right back. It'll be like 30 seconds. Okay.
A few hours later.
So my question was, but you're an international master yourself, right? And you participated in some tournaments. I mean, you had a chess career.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
It's so weird to say you had a chess career now when you look at, prodigies at 12 years old and you live in the world of Magnus Carlsen and all the others. But yeah, I did. And I had a pretty good run as a young American player. I was the top rated player for my age in the country for several years in a row. At one point, under 21, I was the top player besides Hikaru. Hikaru was 2 years younger, but better. But I was one of the top. I think I was like 2490 USCF and 2420 FIDE. Now I'm over 2500 USCF and still right around 2400 FIDE, but I haven't played in years. And so, but yeah, I spent a summer in Russia. I was just telling Igor that you're an awesome producer. Shout out to Igor behind the scenes. And worked with Dvoretsky and Dolmatov and Zaycevым.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's very interesting. What year was it?
2002. I even played a tournament. You can see in my FIDE profile. I got an IM norm there at 16, and played at a tournament. Not at the Moscow Chess Club. It was a little bit outside the city, but I played a blitz tournament at the chess club. It was a great summer, though. It was awesome, and working with Dvoretsky and Dolmatov completely reshaped my opening repertoire. I was a D4 player, and I committed to E4. We developed an English attack universal system against all the Sicilians, and working with Igor Zaytsev was probably my most fond memory of the whole trip, though.
Oh, you worked with Zaytsev? You worked with Zaytsev, famous Karpov's coach.
Exactly. And all he would do was tell me stories of working with Karpov, like Karpov's legendary 50th birthday story where he just played. He was supposed to be this huge party that Karpov was throwing, and he lost one blitz game and then just basically shut down everything and just played until he beat the living shit out of this guy. It was anyway. Igor Zaytsev was great. All we did was blindfold training, and
what do you mean blindfold training?
So we would just play games in our head. We had a chessboard just for aesthetics, I guess, but we kept score, kept notation, and we just said the moves out loud and hit the clock. And we played rapid blindfold games, and then we would go over the game in our head. And it was all we would do for a couple hours, several times we worked. It was really great. And he would just talk to me.
It was fun or training?
It was training, but he was working with me on visualization and sort of pushing the limits of what you can see. And there was all these different types of, Soviet chess school exercises you do where you start out with a couple pieces on squares and you track where they're moving and you move a knight to every square on the board in your head as quickly as you can. He did all kinds of stuff like that with me, and it was awesome. So.
Okay. I think that all this Soviet chess stuff is basically shit now. Yeah, nobody does it anymore. Huh?
They should. Yes. I have a video series on chess.com, an OG series. Shout out to OGs if they know this, and it's called Achieving Full Board Nirvana, and it was where I shared a lot of these stories. I gave a lot of these exercises in this video. It was full board awareness and then full board nirvana, and it was about these types of exercises that can eliminate blunders and really help people calculate. But nobody wants to do any real work, man. No one wants to actually do shit that makes them better. They just want to study openings.
Of course not. So. Everybody wants to have fun now, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you see that in chess world when you open YouTube or Twitch, you only see fun Magnus playing, Magnus smiled playing, Nakamura, Magnus didn't smile playing anybody else. I mean, does it bother you a little bit that the chess?
It's hard because I'm probably to blame for this, or at least I've been told that I was called an evil chess popularist by many.
Really?
Yeah, including our boy.
Nobody can say that. Nobody is. Nobody did it. It's the nature of people, no?
I think one of the things we did I'm not taking credit for what people did, but I'm saying that one of the things we leaned into very early on was that chess was kind of a people watching sport. And I think it was actually really good because, the other side of that coin is that you're watching chess for 7 hours and even top level players will come back and look again because it's hard to follow chess for that long. And so one of the things we did is we created a lot of social media content around funny stuff that happens, like weird facial expressions, or Hikaru puts his coffee cup behind here and then pulls it out and it's a different coffee cup because he had two, and we made it a funny, he was a magician, right? Or, just doing things that leaned into the part of chess that you have a lot of really interesting characters with a lot of idiosyncrasies and just odd habits and funny behaviors. And I think that when you add a little bit of humor to that, a little bit of self-deprecating humor, and let's not take ourselves too seriously, I think it was a big part of what chess.com's brand was very early on. And I think we did lean into that. So yes, I was called an evil chess popularist at one time because we led with content that had nothing to do with chess. It was everything around the chess. And, in some ways, I think that that's been good for the game. Maybe your audience wouldn't agree with that, but I think there's room for
we are
both.
too serious. We are too serious. Yeah, we are discussing it every time that we are too serious. But I don't know. That's who I am, and that's who, the channel from the start was serious. I mean, I don't know. I laugh a lot when I'm with chess players, when I'm with grandmasters, having dinner. I'm sure you too. It's fun to be around chess players. But when we say about the game, I'm educated by Gelfand, Kramnik, Anand. I'm very serious. It's a very serious game. Everything is very serious. Yeah. So,
by the way, funny story about Kramnik. And I don't know that he would remember this, but when I was in Russia in this apartment, so Mark Dvoretsky had two apartments. He had his apartment with his family. and his wife, and he has one son. And there was a second apartment that he maintained because he had people coming to train with him all the time.
Sure.
And so I was staying in that apartment. And one of the training sessions with Dolmatov, so Dolmatov was still working with Kramnik at the time.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I don't know how often, because it's I don't really know what the training regimen was, but at one point while Sergey and I were working together, Kramnik called Dolmatov on the phone, and Dolmatov answered, and they had a whole conversation. And I said hi to Kramnik through Dolmatov on the phone. He was like, "Hey, I'm here with this 16-year-old American kid," and I was like, "Hey, big fan." And obviously Kramnik was world champion at the time in 2002.
Sure.
Best player in the world. You had the transition where a lot of people still debated that Kasparov was still the best, even though he lost the match. But obviously Kramnik.
Maybe it's true. I don't know.
It doesn't matter. But anyway, so fun story. That was my first interaction with Vladimir Kramnik. Was
probably the nicest out of later interactions. Yeah.
Vladimir and I have actually had a lot of good interactions over the years. I mean, he was working closely with the DeepMind team, and Google reached out to us several times before those papers went live, partly just because we have a big reach, we're chess.com, whatever, right? And so we had a lot of conversations sort of behind the scenes about his role as an advisor and what they were doing, not just initially with AlphaZero, but then eventually with the variance project and everything that they did, which was fun. So we had a lot of good conversations there over the years. And obviously it's been a bit of an intense year in regards to Vladimir's feelings with regard to cheating and some of the things that he says that obviously we don't agree with, but yeah, I would like to think we had a good relationship there for a while. I think he would probably agree, and now I would like to think we don't really have a relationship more than a negative one. That's my framing. So
maybe you're right, but what do I think about his numbers and everything? I mean, mostly I'm interested in that when you listen to him, he's my friend and everything. We had a bit of a fight lately because he thought that I don't know what he thought. It doesn't matter. So we already passed that. But whenever you listen to him, I mean, it sounds when he starts it sounds good. It sounds good. It sounds like yeah, maybe this guy is right. It sounds crazy, but I mean the pieces are falling into places. But overall, I mean, how do you feel about that? You play on chesscom, right? You play chess sometimes. Do you meet
occasionally?
Maybe you see some strange games entitled Tuesday or something. What do you personally think about that?
Well, I mean, it's a big topic, right? So
Sure.
Let's see where to begin. I mean, I don't think we've ever denied that cheating happens. I mean, I would say, like crime, you can't prevent it and you can't stop it. You can hope to contain it, and you can do the best you can to hold people accountable. I think we've heard a lot of the criticism from the community, and this year we've made some changes, which I would say have been needed. So I'll start out by just giving a validating statement and one that started in many ways like our relationship with Kramnik started about a year ago, which is appreciation for the conversation and not a denial about the fact that we can and we should always continue to strive to be better. I mean, we are the market share leader, whatever you want to call us, right? We have a responsibility here, and we have to continue to invest and do it.
Sure.
And I would say, despite what at times is a really negative framing through the conversation, I would argue there's a lot of good being done, and we don't have to burn the ship while people are on it, and we don't necessarily have to claim that there are Zagava. There's no conspiracy here. And I'll address right away. I mean, one of the things that was most upsetting, Ilya, just to be honest, like last week, Vladimir goes on your podcast and says that we fired half of our anti-cheating staff this year.
Yeah,
that is completely untrue. And where does he even get that information from? Like honestly, we have fired 0 of our anti-cheating staff this year. So we had a round of layoffs, which was unfortunate for a number of reasons that had nothing to do with fair play. It was back a few months ago. But to say and say that type of statement like it's fact, and you hear it and we just go like, what exactly is his goal here? Because there's no evidence of that. That's completely untrue. He says it like it's fact. And how many people are ever going to hear me debunk it? So it's frustrating. And it's not obviously I don't blame your platform or anything, but it does make me wonder, like, what is the goal here of this conversation? Because that's not a fair statement. And I think in many ways, Ilya, it's a bit of an anecdotal like thing that sometimes he will take a fact that happened, a thing that happened, which is true. We did have a round of layoffs, and I can talk about that, but it's its own thing that has nothing to do. It was public news.
I don't
People
care
saw
about
it.
that. It's your own internal stuff. Yeah.
But then he says it through that lens that so where did he hear that? But no one asked him to say, like, first of all, no one actually says, hey, that's not true, or where did you hear it? But he says it like it's fact and with so much passion that we go, okay. And then, other things he says, like that no serious mathematician or professor would sign off on these reports we're doing. Well, that's not true. Like, these are third-party people who have a respected reputation to protect in their industry. They don't sign these things. They don't participate in these types of investigative reports or deliver this stuff without considering their reputations. And I'm not going to go into, like, obviously we've disagreed with stuff, and Ken Regan has disagreed. So now, but the problem is this, like, if I say that, I sound defensive, even though I actually don't feel like we have anything to defend. I think we're doing a good job and we can do better. But I would ask, or I would politely push back a little bit to say, hey, like, that's not true. Why would you say that? What is the motivation of that? While you're claiming Zagabor over here, you're claiming conspiracy and some sort of plot that would take, like, all of these people that apparently chess.com is controlling and paying to cover up what exactly, when in the reality, if you look at our reports, we're closing somewhere between 10 to 15 titled players every single month. Now, we can do better. We should be doing it publicly. We should be holding more accountable. We're answering this call, and that's what we've been investing in. But there's a lot of what I would claim is Zagabor propaganda. I go, like, who told Vladimir it doesn't matter what you say, just keep going at chess.com? Because that's how it feels over here sometimes, and it doesn't make sense to us.
Interesting. So you didn't fight these people. Then it's not good. He's saying that. It's absolutely not good. Maybe he heard that somebody got fired from chesscom and he thought that these guys are from. No, but I told him directly that a lot of things he says is a bit too harsh, and we don't do it like that in the world. I mean, you have to be 100% sure when you're saying something. But the problem for me, the problem is that it's like Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. I don't support either of them. Yeah, I don't know them. I don't sympathize either of them.
Me neither, by the way.
Okay,
centrist over here.
Yeah, but in this dispute, let's say public dispute that you have with Kramnik, a lot of people are saying, yeah, of course there are a lot of cheaters, and Kramnik is right, but the methods of Kramnik is using are very bad. I mean, publicly it looks awful. Yes, chesscom does something, but they don't block this guy is cheating. I mean,
I lost you. Go ahead, keep going. You were talking about the streamer. Go ahead. Oh my gosh, no, we lost sound again. Now we have to keep it going, because now we're really in the podcast. So this is going to be a podcast with really fun outtakes where we just keep having sound issues. I'm sorry. We can't hear you.
A few moments later.
It's okay. Technical issues. Hi, Igor. Everyone should appreciate Igor. If you're watching the podcast and you hear this, let's keep this. Igor's doing magic behind the scenes.
Я не понимаю. I don't know what's happening, really.
It's okay.
It's a mystery.
We'll keep going. Go ahead.
But now is okay? Now is okay?
Yeah. Now I got you.
Okay.
So I say that but to remind people that, because I think when we have these types of conversations, they can be potentially charged and heated depending on people's preconceived sort of opinion or held belief or whatever they're looking for. So I say that to ask for a little bit of space, that people can give me some credit that I do know a little bit about this. I've been dealing with Fabiano, Yanda Pomnishi, and Anish Giri since before Vladimir Kramnik decided to start playing a lot of online chess. And I understand how this is viewed. And let me say this. There's a couple of things here that we look at. First of all, I want to start at the top with, he very well might be cheating. He might be. And within one event, we have an opportunity now to dial in and look at whether or not we think this guy cheated. And guess what? Sometimes when they do that, they give us that new information about, I always call it their DNA in terms of what they're capable of as a player, that allows us to look back at everything they've been doing casually on chess.com or in other tournaments. And we might actually look at that event and say, hey, that was not the same player, but we need time to do that. We can't do it in the middle of an event. We need the opportunity to investigate, because the second thing I would say is maybe he's cheating. The second thing I would say is maybe he's not. And here's the deal. We have evaluated over the years many times where, like, I'll call out a famous case, someone like Gotham Chess. Should Gotham Chess beat Jan Nepomniachtchi like that often? No, but he wasn't cheating, and occasionally upsets happen. So the question is, what level of overperformance when you are running 2 events with 700 professional players twice a week on the same day, what statistical level of overperformance do you expect versus what should never happen? We actually felt the need to answer this question because of conversations like this, which is why we did that one report, which I don't know if you saw. And we came away with saying, like, hey, and again, this had contributions by people outside of our team to say, when you are doing this many games, which is different than one local over-the-board event, it's 700 people where you can't account for all types of bad days, good days, easy pairings, hard pairings, lucky of openings versus not, and you run that twice a week on the same day, so 8 times a month. What should be happening? We came away with whatever that was. Again, I don't want to say anything that then the comments in chat hold me. Sure. It was roughly like 2% you should expect. Now, of 2%, that doesn't mean that every one of them is cheating. It means that overperformances are happening at about that range. And now we need to dial into what of those overperformances are cheating. We have continued to do that. And what I would say is check our report in a month. Remember, every month we do this report and we close about 10 to 15 players, and we haven't been doing names. That's been a fair criticism. We can talk about that if you want to talk about policies in terms of how we got there and why I protected not doing names. We had some history there. But I would say this. A lot of what happens in these moments, Ilya, is people freak out. They use it as evidence that chess.com isn't doing enough. And then you look at our reports year over year. I would challenge anyone to go back and look. We've been closing these people. Someone actually ran an interesting API on Reddit this last week. Sorry, my back. And they actually came up with their own sort of investigation where they figured out title players who basically just suddenly stopped playing in Title Tuesday. Now, again, we can talk about policy and maybe why we could have been doing a better job holding people publicly accountable. There's an argument that capital punishment could have done more to deter cheating. And I'm willing to have that conversation and have it through a nuanced, balanced lens of why we acted the way we did. But what I would say is maybe he's cheating, maybe he's not. And either way, we're probably already on top of this that people don't know. And using it as a case to say that nothing's being done is frankly affirmation of previously held belief. And it's not necessarily based in fact or the historical context of what we've been doing for years. And so I am not denying that there are people probably cheating on chess.com right now and getting away with it. But that in that same lens, you have to not deny that we've been closing about 15 title players every month for years. And that if you actually look at the data and don't get to dismiss people who are experts in that field and say, oh, they're amateurs, because they're not, the cheating problem is not anywhere close to what it feels to be in these claims that people are making, like 30%, 50%. It's just not true. So that's what I would say to that. And I'm happy to discuss any one of those rabbit holes you'd like. If you're like, hey, let's poke at that one.
Yeah, but I feel like I'm in a movie. Don't Look Up. You know, it's yeah. You're saying me that I'm telling you that we see, and I've been in chess for 20 years. I know that the players that play online, they can feel everything you want. You know, I've been with a lot of players after defeats, after they lose very important matches, World Chess Championship matches, Russian Championship, Dortmund, Linares. I don't know. I know when a player has lost a very important game or just a game, it's unbearable to be around the guy for 2 hours, for sure.
Thank you for saying that.
But I can determine what he says, when he says it's true or not. Is it what he really feels, or is it emotions? Here, sometimes I'm sure that this guy cheats. I mean, and we see that, like my group of chess friends, like 10, 15 people, like most conservative of them, they say nobody cheats, but this guy does. And still we feel that this gap is very big between you are doing your job as good as you see it. Yeah, I'm not saying you are not fighting cheating. I'm not saying that. Kramnik says that. I'm not saying that. Yes, you work, you publish reports. I've seen this one GM you've blocked last month, one GM. But sometimes we see some people that, for example, this nice guy, Jospem from Jose Jospem. So he's beating Kramnik 7-0 online, and then he barely survives in every game offline. And then for some reason, when they play online in their last game, in their last match, in their second match, Kramnik beats him online. That's fantastic. I mean, I need an answer. How is it possible?
You gave a lot of opinions stated as fact that are subjective. And so
for sure, 100%.
It's not
I
something
always do that. I never operate
Yeah.
statistic with these fucking mathematicians.
So
I don't care about them.
It's okay. I think what I'll say is there's a lot of, big perspective on this. And again, I would say nothing you just said denies that we've been closing about 15 title players every month for the last many years, and we're going to continue to. There are top players who currently are, I'm being very careful. There are a couple of top 100 players in the world who are banned from chess.com now, and I said top 100 to be loosely, that you don't even know about, and they just, they stop playing. There's another GM that's coming out in the next couple of weeks. We'll see. He's currently threatening to sue. That'll be fun. But
Okay.
they all do. And we're doing our best. Now, again, like we've actually been really diving in to areas where we knew we needed to innovate further, because it's a good conversation to have through the lens of why people who keep looking at accuracy score are just out of their mind. No matter how many times I go on record on State of Chess and say accuracy score is not cheat detection, they still use it. But it's the same thing.
But it's a great invention. But it's a good thing. It's a good thing. You introduced it.
Yeah, it's a fun thing. And we did it anecdotally, as I said, on State of Chess, because when you tried to explain to people outside of chess what the rating 2720 meant, they go 2720 out of what, right? But if you say 85%, 90%, 70%, even as far down as 60%, like my boys who are not very good at chess, they love when they get accuracy above 70%, right? So
Sure.
We did it for different reasons, but it's the same conversation in regards to why accuracy is not useful cheat detection, without getting into our algorithm and saying things I shouldn't get into, because we don't ever want to tip areas where we feel like people might be able to cheat in spots without letting them know that we can catch you in spots. It just takes more time in terms of pattern recognition. And one of the things that we've been diving into is how do we get better finding the signal through the noise faster? I'm saying a long-winded way of validating what you're saying. Look, catching the best players in the world for doing what they're supposed to do, which is try to play the best move according to the gods known as Stockfish and Leela and neural nets. And this is hard work. It's been hard work for a long time. I would argue we're better at it despite our bad PR in terms of providing transparency and what we've been doing, and capital punishment in terms of areas where we actually acknowledge the market has evolved, where we do need to do a better job with that. We're doing it. But the actual bare bones truth of trying to catch players for cheating in spots and what we can do to tease out patterns that we can track that catch someone who thinks they're playing bad positions and then they make good moves, or catch someone who always stays within, a point of being equal in the algorithm until they get down to a critical moment. Like, we're working on this type of stuff. And I don't want to say more because there's just no reason to. And honestly, I guess what I'm saying is, thank you. We appreciate it. I'm not trying to cover up or defend, because as I've said, I don't really feel like there's anything to defend, but I do acknowledge this sucks and no one likes it. And I would ask that maybe you continue to look, because if you believe there are people cheating, I think that with time we tend to catch a lot of these people, and we're gonna do it in a way where we can always, I guess the phrase I've said, where we can stand by it and sleep at night, right? Where we don't want to close people in a way that we don't feel, we could really stand up to that data in a court of law or whatever that looks like. It's hard.
Yeah, but if you block, I've heard that from Eric, but if you block somebody on chesscom, it's not necessarily means that you're killing somebody or putting somebody to jail or depriving them of food and drinks. You just block them on a website. I mean, it's not such a big deal, you know.
I actually used your comparison internally this week, where I kind of said the same thing. I said, hey, X person is worried or threatening. I said, look, we're actually, despite what he says, we're not endangering his livelihood in any way. He's full of it. We're actually just protecting our interest, and we're going to do exactly what we're going to do via not just what we have determined via our fair play findings, the terms of service on our site, which he agreed to, and we're going to close this person for cheating. And we don't buy that there's any of this stuff. And I think, again, that said, look, if we're going to have a discussion about punishment, we should have a nuanced one that takes into account that is cheating, even if it's blatant, is cheating one game in a casual 3-0 game where someone does it so blatantly, we had enough of their DNA before, and then they do it one time and they do it enough after. Is that one game, let's say this person did it casually, the same, and should be held the same as someone who cheated in a Title Tuesday to take a prize away from a professional? Like, that's an interesting discussion. Like, should they actually be held to the same? Should there be a communication policy that's different? What if that person is 13 years old? What if this person is a 25-year-old professional? Like, these are things where there's a reason they have juries of peers and courts, because you try to give a little bit of human empathy and nuance to every discussion when you have it. That doesn't mean that people who cheat don't get held accountable. It just means that we had a policy that was built on, we didn't think that casual chess online should rake someone over the public coals early on, especially when people didn't even realize how good we were at catching them. Early on, we were catching them and they were giving us these bullshit excuses, like old school. I had ChessBase open, but I wasn't looking at it. Like, they would say things that were guilty that had nothing to do with what we were doing. And it was like shooting fish in a barrel. Like, we were catching a lot of cheating at first until we developed, I think, a reputation that was good. Now, you would still say now we haven't done enough. And I would agree with that, because the investment in the market of millions of dollars has not kept up with our policies. And that's a lot of the work we've done this year, is to say, hey, we hear you. It's time for us to engage in a higher level of capital and punishment, hold people accountable, and do a better job communicating about what we're doing, because clearly there are perspectives that don't feel good about what's happening. But regardless of the communication stuff we're improving, I would say that the nuance we took to trying to be considerate of some cheating is different than others wasn't totally out of bounds with how you would try to operate in a society, I guess.
I don't know. I'm thinking now that Kramnik is doing some job, and I think it's a good job. You are doing some job, and I'm pretty sure that you are smart people. You hire smart people. You are doing some good job, but you both are very bad in public relations. So okay. you are not so different from one each other. You know, it's interesting that but what he's doing is impressive in terms of this endgame analysis. I think what he's doing in terms of how he uses his chess experience, his mind that constantly works on the issue. You know, he's very persistent. He's very smart, and he's getting smarter. He's like a very good AI that teaches himself every day. I think what he's doing lately is very close to something very real. How you can determine people who are cheating. And I know some names that he's dealing with. And also, I have to say, Danny, that I know some players that they told me they're cheating. It's a couple of people, and of course I will never tell on them, because then they're even not my friends, and they're saying that, come on, Ilya, I'm playing with this guy, I know he's cheating, I see that. So and it's not that it's not I'm saying it's a good excuse. It's very bad excuse, but I can understand them. It's I think that we are now already living in chess society that is so that this disease, it's already so deep in the minds of people. You know, when you see some incredible result, the first thing that comes to your mind, oh, he's probably cheating. You cannot do this. You cannot score so many points.
I think he's playing too good. What you just said acknowledges the problem, though. Everyone is living in a world where they're assuming cheating, and you're saying that they're all right. I would say when you talk about Kramnik
I'm not saying it's all right. No,
I'm curious. I mean, when you say Kramnik's getting better, is he Is he getting better at saying chess.com fired half their staff as if it's fact with no proof? Is he getting better at throwing out
true.
tweets?
That's very bad.
What about these tweets where he circles Danya's accuracy score with Levon Aronian, and Levon blundered a piece in 8 moves? But he does it with an agenda, Ilya. What is his agenda? Like, I asked you. Like,
I have no idea. I wanted to ask you. Maybe you know some. No, I don't know his agenda. I think his agenda is to. Honestly, I think it's not personal. First of all, I think it's not personal. He doesn't have. I think he doesn't have anything against you.
Well,
you as chesscom.
Not me. But even
you as chesscom. I mean as chesscom. No, I mean you as chesscom. I think. Maybe he's a bit upset that he thinks that he wasn't appreciated and carefully listened to back in 2023, a year ago, maybe. But I think that Vladimir that's why half of the opening theory is based on his work. When he starts something, he only finishes like when he is out of energy. Yeah. And he is very energetic.
But Ilya, developing an opening repertoire according to Kramnik, great series, shout out to Halifman, has nothing to do with cheat detection or algorithms or statistics. I mean, you're acknowledging that his own ego is the enemy. I should have brought the other book that's my favorite, The Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. It sounds like his own ego got in his own way, and now, regardless of what he's saying about statistics or whatever you think he's learning, that the crime of his ego getting hurt doesn't justify saying things about Danya Naroditsky that he knows are not true with an agenda. And if you look at any of the games, the lack of nuance, the lack of care, if you look at the things he's saying about chess.com firing staff, people who talked about the censorship thing initially when we said, hey, you can't recklessly and antagonistically accuse a 12-year-old. It has nothing to do with the emotions anymore of a top player, where a top player is frustrated, they lose to someone, they think this person cheated, they justify whatever they're doing. We by the way, often deal with these players privately, and the difference is they just don't leak the emails. They understand that, hey, thank you for doing the work. You'll get this person. There's a respectful conversation. People think we're not warning other players when they do this. We are warning them. We're just not having these conversations in the public, Twitter sphere, right? But many of the top players who were initially mad at me when they saw Kramnik got censored, they did it, or they were initially upset because they assumed we were upset about things he was saying about chess.com or about me or about Hikaru. No. Once I explained, I said, no, look at this in terms of where we've gotten and what he's now saying about this talented 12-year-old from Turkey. Every single one of them, even ones who were publicly debating it with me on Twitter, were like, okay, he's crossed the line. I get it. So what exactly are we supposed to do other than acknowledge, like, hey, I guess I'm sorry that we could no longer have a productive conversation, because even if he's doing good statistical work, he's still arriving at the wrong conclusions from those systems. And even if he starts arriving at better conclusions, he's still operating clearly with an agenda to spread falsehood that doesn't make sense to us, other than, as I joked, Zagava, I'm like, who's paying him? Because what exactly is the goal here? It makes no sense. And so, anyway, I think when it comes to this topic, what I'll say is... Who
can pay him for that? Leeches? I don't know.
I'm kidding.
As a joke.
And I'm kidding about it, obviously. But it does make you wonder, because you go, what exactly is the goal here? I don't understand. I appreciate the claims of conspiracy.
Maybe
there is no conspiracy. There is no bias.
Why do you think that the goal, sorry to interrupt you, Danny, but why do you think that his goal is different from what he states is his goal?
Because he's saying things that aren't true and doing it consistently and knowing.
You think he says that? You think he's saying that and he understands that it's false information?
It's been consistent enough now where I have to wonder. I mean, again, where and who did he hear that chess.com fired half their fair play staff, and then to go and say it publicly? Like, that's a pretty bold thing to say when you've been engaging in a public arena, attacking chess.com's record and systems and our reputation. That's a pretty direct thing to say when it's just not true enough. I mean, I'm asking. Making the tweets he does that are not based in fact. I mean, I'm mentioning the Danya one just because it's recent, but there are so many other statements before that where you just have to wonder. And so, again, I think when it comes to this topic, I started out saying, and I meant it, like, hey, I still believe we're all on the same team. I just don't believe the ship needs to be burned while we're figuring out who some of the mafia are on the ship. Who are the cheaters on the ship? We're figuring it out. We're going to consistently figure it out. That's where that analogy isn't good, I guess, because at some point it's not a ship, it's an island.
But what can you do with? Can you answer me? Can you answer me the question about Jospem? I'm very interested because he's wiping Kramnik out of the board live. I saw these games, like 7 or 8 games, and then they play live, and it's a completely different story. Basically, it's a completely different story, Danny, and you see that, you understand that. I mean, there is something fishy going on. I think maybe not. But
I think
most
people felt the opposite of that when they. So you're saying there's something fishy. I think I talked to a lot of people who were like, yeah, like honestly, he played pretty well. Like I actually don't find.
Yeah, but he is 7-1 online, and then he loses the match offline. Or just scored the same, almost the same amount. I don't remember.
There's a lot of ways. There's a lot of ways to look at the games and numbers. How long Kramnik has been playing. If you actually look at a lot of the games and his ability to win in time scrambles, it'd be really hard to claim cheating. Look, there's a lot of goals here. There's a lot of ways to look at this information. We never uncheck anyone of not being worthy of investigation. We are always going to keep looking at Jospem, just like we always look at Hikaru, just like we always look at Kramnik, just like we always look at name the next person. And from our perspective, there was no data tipped either way that was really clarifying. Now, again, you're saying you look at the games, and from your point of view, this is not the same player.
It's my point of view.
It's your point of view. I think that if we wanted to go game by game with the cheat detection staff, I guess that's a different thing to do. Probably not on a podcast, but
but if we believe them, if we believe they're professionals, if we believe that there is such a thing. Cheat detection stuff. Now we know that there is chief chess officer, but chief detective stuff, that's something else. I mean, I would believe a good grandmaster analyzing the game. But I know that when you start talking with a chess player and he accuses somebody of cheating, he can provide millions of he can show you games, and from these games you will see, yeah, he's a cheater, of course. But of course it's biased. Because from the beginning he thinks that this guy is cheating, and maybe here is what Kramnik does. He probably understands that. He probably thinks this guy is probably a cheater. Let's investigate him. Yeah, and then when you have this initial thought, then the whole investigation could go wrong. Absolutely, I agree. I agree with it 100%. But I think that. I personally think that I feel that, and I know that you say feel is not statistics, but I believe more in feelings than in statistics. Statistics were wrong a lot of times. When you feel something and feel it very clearly, you are very rarely wrong. And when I see some players playing offline like shit, and then online they do amazing. I mean, I don't have any questions to Hikaru Nakamura because he's over 2,800 offline, and he's an amazing player, and he's been on the chess scene for 20 years. He's won a lot of tournaments and so on and so forth. But when we talk about some international masters or guys from Turkey or from any other country, it's a big problem. It's a big problem, and we are moving nowhere here. Kramnik is accusing chesscom. Chesscom is publishing reports that nobody can read because it's too hard to read. So I don't know. It's
Here's what I would say.
Stuck.
Here's what I would say.
We're stuck.
When you want
we're
to
stuck.
run, when you want
but
to
it's
run, run that same over the board tournament for me, where the guy scores 6 out of 11, 8 times a month with 700 players. Do that for me, and then let's also look at the 15 players we're closing every month and say that we're not moving anywhere through the lens of, okay, we're not moving anywhere, but at the end of the year, 15 times 12, we've closed this many more players. We're not really comparing apples to apples here. We're comparing feelings to apples, I guess. And I respect and understand that there is a human nuance to everything, including data. We have to someone has to translate the data, right? But to say things that you did at the top of the statement, like, does this team even exist? This team has 3 grandmasters on it who are way better at looking at these reports and this data. They've been doing it for a decade. We've got multiple FM level players, and we have people who live and built statistical models for a living operating on this team. And they clearly exist, Ilya. They're closing a dozen players a month. So you can't just like casually throw out, does this team even exist? Because that hurts. That's
No,
like,
no, I didn't say that. I just, Dennis, sorry, it's my bad English. I'm sure they exist, of course, 100%.
Okay.
I wanted to say that I'm not sure that there is such a thing to exist, that they can do their job.
It's hard.
Properly.
I said that. It's hard
saying.
work. This is hard work. This is a difficult problem to solve. I, for one, believe it is worth fighting and continuing to do it while saving the ship that we're on. I don't believe it's healthy or useful to make claims, certainly ones that are not based in fact and that at some point become consistent enough that makes us question the motive. But regardless of that, just like it's not helpful for chess.com to deny it's a problem, but I don't think I'm doing that. I'm saying this is a tough problem. This is a tough problem. It's one that we live in because of computers and AI, and one that none of us asked for.
Exactly.
We're going to continue to fight it, and I would rather do it through a different lens than what is currently being done. But like you said, you have chess.com over here. The only thing I take a little bit of exception to is I don't think we're saying it's not a problem. We've changed policies. We're acknowledging we can do a better job communicating. We have PR issues, as you said, but that doesn't mean we weren't doing stuff. On the other side, I would love to get back to productive conversations. Right now, it's hard to do that when there's also being things being said that I'm like, all I end up sounding like is like the guy who has to blow the whistle every time he goes out of bounds and say, Kramnik, technical, you just said another thing as if it's fact, which is not fact. Okay, Kramnik, you just did another tweet that you know is not true. Why did you do that, right? If those things stopped, it would be a lot easier to develop productive conversation, but I don't think they have any intention to stop. I think it's more likely he will continue to defy our warnings and what we say in regards to, hey, to play in our events, this is acceptable behavior. I don't think he's going to play ball with that. And so I don't really know where our relationship is going to go with Kramnik, other than he will probably be a cheat detective operating in his own world for as long as he decides that it's useful for him to do it. And we're going to continue to do what we can, not operating in feelings, but in data that we can back and take and really stand by. And that, I guess, my way of trying to wrap a ribbon on it, I guess.
Yeah, I'm sure he will not stop just because he never stops doing what he does, and I think it gives meaning to what he does. I mean, he's investing a lot of himself into it for whatever reason. I don't know the reason, Danny. Maybe it's his personal thing. Maybe it's a project. I have no idea, honestly. I'm completely honest. I have no idea, and I don't care much. It's fun to watch, but I can understand that it hurts your feelings.
And you can trust, by the way, that everything he says we look into. And for the record, I think we've closed several players he mentioned over time, but he doesn't take his own percentage into account, right? So we're closing some. A lot of the times he's just really off the map. And anyway, but I think it's good to move on. Wish him the best. We're going to do our best. And I appreciate having an opportunity to have the conversation and at least set a couple things straight that were just not true. So anyway, I'm happy to move on to if you'd like to.
Yeah. We have a World Championship match ahead of us. Ding is playing Gukesh. What do you think about that? We've been broadcasting your event in Paris, beautiful event with Magnus, Hikaru, Alireza, and Mr. Neiman.
Yeah.
And it was beautifully organized. Everything was it was dynamic. It was basically chess that we love to see, and best players playing in a very hard, tense circumstances, and now we have this classical match of 14 games. I don't even know how many games. And where are we moving in chess world? Where are we in terms of this? There is this World Championship match, World Championship classical cycle. There is this chesscom events and it seems like you've been overpowering the chess world with all these events. Yeah, we have this Champions Chess Tour. We have this event that just finished in Paris. We have Title Tuesday, and then somewhere in Singapore they're rolling the carpets. Where do you think we are in terms of offline and online? Is this? It seems like it's completely different chess worlds now.
Yeah, I mean it's a big question. A lot of things there. It'll be fun to talk about. I think first of all, regarding Ding Liren versus Gukesh, I think what an interesting matchup, right? Because I think a lot of people would agree that it's probably not the two best players in the world competing for the top title. At the same time, there's some fascinating aspects to it. Obviously, India has become this absolute powerhouse, and shout out to Vishy Anand and everything that's been clearly happening there for a generation, and now everyone's seeing it. I'm aware of the private group of philanthropists and everyone who's been putting so much effort into helping these kids. I think a lot of people don't know that. I've even seen the private WhatsApp group. So just huge shout out to everybody who brought this opportunity for India about. People think of Vishy. I just want to say that because I think it's amazing, and it showed the level
Sure, it's
the level of
fantastic.
support that they needed for all of these young kids to get this good is crazy, and I think we're going to be living in that world for a while. I think from that perspective, Gukesh becoming the youngest world champion ever would be fascinating as a storyline. But maybe Ding Liren's going to surprise everybody and actually pull his shit together and be really good, right? Who knows, right? I think it's been a really fascinating thing to see what happened with Ding Liren, in that he kind of achieved this goal. And then, like, you hear Olympic people talk about this, right? Like they achieved this gold medal, and then it's like they have this adrenaline drop that's been 10 years in the making or something, right? And so my heart goes out to him. I've struggled with a lot of mental health issues in my life, from anxiety to depression, and I've gone through a lot of stuff in that regard. So I think it's a really hard thing to judge from the outside, and it's kind of hard to see someone really struggling and acknowledging it. But if he pulls it together and Gukesh has this massive movement behind him, we could be in for a surprisingly epic match, despite the fact that I think objectively these are not the best two players in the world. So that's my best pitch for how excited I am for some of these unique storylines. You know, whatever you want to call it, the tour by Ding Liren, the comeback tour by Ding Liren, and then the youngest person maybe ever to earn the world championship title. All of that said, I think I want to jump to a comment you made quickly at the end, because it's actually true, and I will acknowledge that we've been doing a lot of reflecting on this internally at chess.com, and that when you said we're running all these events with the Champions Chess Tour and the Speed Chess Championship and Title Tuesday, it almost feels like we're overpowering the calendar at times. And I'll be honest with you, we don't want to do that. That's actually not something we ever intended to do. And in fact, we never considered ourselves a chess organizer. We considered ourselves a distributor, a media partner, someone who could cover the event and provide our takes of it, whether it's interesting storylines and people watching memes for social media, or our own broadcast where we thought our angle was a different way to do chess commentary. But that was what we did for years. And we did that, by the way, without even camera feeds. Like the 2018 World Championship, it's just me and Robert Hess sitting in my closet doing a thing, right? And then we covered the Sinkfield Cup this way without, feeds from the Grand Chess Tour, because they never really wanted to give feeds to anybody, which was fine. So I'm saying, if you look at it from 30,000 feet and you look at chess.com from a more macro view versus what the micro lens has been of the last couple of years, we have actually never been an organizer. We have been a distributing partner, and I would say a digital platform that helped bring eyeballs. And that is actually what our long-term goal is. And I don't want to break any news here because it would be inappropriate of me, and any internal staff watching this would be like, what is Danny talking about? But I am going to be honest that we are rethinking all of this right now in terms of what is our event strategy, what is our broadcast strategy, what do we really want to accomplish here? Because we don't need to be organizing events that suddenly make organizers, actual organizers, whether it's Grand Chess Tour or Jan-Henrik Buechner, the guy from Germany, or FIDE, that make them look at us like a competitor. That's actually not what we want to be. And if you look at our precedent of actually look at our company for the last 16 years, we have more years of not doing that. And really, we just did the Speed Chess Championship and Title Tuesday. And I think those events are core to us because they serve the professional community. You can tell how excited I get about it. The Speed Chess Championship is like my baby. I love that event. That format is like the thing that I'm so proud of that we've built. But other than those events, really, everything else we would love to do is actually help cover and help bring eyeballs and help provide content and storyline. What does that mean long term for things like the tour or all the other events we do? We're trying to figure this out. We are thinking about it because we also don't want to pull the plug. We don't want to turn our back on the things we provide. We want to figure out a balanced way to sort of provide things that really matter for the online community so that we're not seen as a competitor with the offline community. And then we partner with those events in proper ways to bring eyeballs and to do things that maybe help grow the game, for the term that chess.com has been coined, right? Growing the game. So I'm saying that because I agree with you And the only reason we got here, Ilya, then I'll really shut up. A quick tangent. The reason we got here was because what happened over the last years? A pandemic hit in 2020. There were no events. Suddenly, Chess24, our competitor, launched this tour. And what a lot of people don't know is that when they were doing those contracts, shout out to Arcus, I can talk bad about him now because now he works for me and he's awesome and we love him. Arcus was doing contracts, Ilya, where these guys weren't allowed to play in events anymore. They were gobbling them up. So they were launching a tour, the Magnus Carlsen tour, right?
Yeah.
With contracts that required content on Chessable, and they were trying to basically, carve out an exclusive hold over the players.
That's smart.
It was the one area where they could kind of disrupt chess.com, right? So we were like, well, shit, what do we do here, right? We actually never intended to do a tour, but it's a cool thing. We actually did an awesome event with FIDE, by the way, right at the start of the pandemic. A lot of people don't remember. We did this ONC, the Online Nations Cup. Awesome to work with FIDE on that. But then they launched this tour, and we were like, well, we should do more serious events. So we launched our Rapid Chess Championship, which was the first event we did in Rapid with big prizes. Then we did our Global Chess Championship. So all of a sudden you have Chess.com and Chess24 due to what was really a year and a half, almost 2-year pandemic before the calendar balanced, right? It was a wild time. All of a sudden we were competing with each other, and all the over-the-board events were sort of watching this online war, and now they start coming back. They start launching events again because the pandemic's over. And overnight, we've just got like this massive mess. And all of a sudden, our resources are like, well, do we care more about our events or covering the Singfield Cup like we've done for years? Do we care more about this or that? And so we did the best we could with it. Ultimately, we made the play to acquire PMG. And of course, that was public news. It happened right before the big scandal. But we ultimately, two online entities became one, which solved part of the problem. So at least we weren't competing anymore in terms of calendar space. But it still hasn't really taken its proper conversation of, hey, what is our ultimate goal? We want to partner to help tell great stories, to make people motivated ultimately to get better. Because that's actually what we care about. We want to motivate people to get better at chess. It's literally what pays the bills, is people trying to get a premium subscription. Sure. And we have a lot of data that says the LTV, the lifetime value of a user who watches chess, is actually much higher because they've engaged with the community, and there's something inspirational about whether it's a Levy Rosman video or watching a top tournament. People who watch chess, even if they fall out of the play cycle, they eventually come back to the play, watch, play cycle. And then we just want to connect that last dot, which is learn. How do I get better? How do I get people to ask, why did I lose that chess game? That's all we care about, really. And so I think that helping to support organizers and their events, providing content coverage of it, bringing eyeballs to the game is what we've always done. It's what we want to do. What that means for the future, full transparency, I don't even know right now. We are rethinking a lot about our calendar and where it makes sense for us to invest. So there you go. That's my long-winded answer of what I see about the future of what we're trying to do.
Yeah. My only concern is that I don't understand what the fuck is going on with these divisions. Who is in what division?
Oh my God, it's so complicated.
Chess players also, they say, I don't fucking know. I just play games. I just play games, and then at the end I see what division.
You know what happened? So here's what happened. And by the way, shout out to Michael Brancato. He's our events commissioner, and he's actually a celebrity in his own right. He was one of the best Smash Brothers players in the world, Nintendo dude. But he designed the format, and he has become a meme and a joke because everybody makes fun of him, including me. I'm like, Michael, this shit is way too complicated. Give me the elevator pitch. But I'll defend him just for 2 seconds to at least explain the philosophy of what he was trying to accomplish.
Okay.
When we look at the chess world historically, we felt like eventually we had to do more. We had to do more for the democratic meritocracy process to really provide a system that allowed people to go from the bottom to the top. Realistically, that doesn't mean someone who learns chess should be able to beat Vladimir Kramnik. That would be them cheating, right? But from the perspective of grandmasters, especially grandmasters, we felt like one of the things we wanted to solve if we were going to play in this game as an organizer was that there truly was a democratic meritocracy in place so that someone would only move up based on their own merit. The problem is this. that sounds really great in theory. It sounds like really idealistic and spiritual. Let's make the world a better place, right? But here's the problem with that. That's not how the chess world works. Because you know what makes people freaking watch chess? Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura, Jan Nepomuk. Like, these are the people that drive eyeballs, right? So you can't develop a pure meritocracy and actually accomplish the business goal of making sure that the best players are always there when it matters most. At the same time, does that mean that the way Tata Steel has done things for years, where people are invited, no one even really knows what they're paid? That's just how it is. There's not even a prize fund. They all have their own appearance fee. Is that something that you really feel like you could stand on and take to like a larger media partner? Not really either. If you try to explain the World Championship qualification process, by the way, that's been messed up for years.
Bye there.
No,
yeah.
So
impossible.
My point was, and you can tell I get very passionate about this because I care about this. I'm like, how do we solve this problem but not doing it in an idealistic, dreamy world that acknowledges the current state of affairs that we live in? And of course, people care more about more than Magnus and Hikaru. That was an exaggeration to prove the point that the top players get those invites for a reason, because people care about when they're playing. And so we decided to design a system that at the time, so here's how it worked. At the time, we figured, okay, if we're combining the Magnus Tour, the Chess24 thing, and the Chess.com Global Championship, and we basically make up our own number that says the top players of both those things get seeded in advance. And then we design a system where as long as they do well enough, they'll always stay in the Division 1. They'll never really fall way down, right? Then what we can do is we can launch this meritocracy where anybody could eventually work their way up while starting in a world that as long as the top players perform reasonably, they're never going to fall too far. So we said, okay, Wesley So is the global chess champion. Magnus Carlsen is the Magnus Tour champion. I think it was the Champions Chess Tour champion. Those two get seeded. Then the top players based on performances in those tours get seeded. So we basically found our magical world. And then we developed the meritocracy on top of it. But that's why it's messed up, because people are falling and upgrading and bouncing around based on a system that was trying to merge two things. And basically you're right. It's way too complicated. Probably people would prefer us going back to the SEC, because as much as I criticize the invitational events, what is my baby? It's basically just an invitational event for the 16 players that I want to invite, because it's freaking awesome, right? Who doesn't want to see these guys play with? So I acknowledge that it's a problem, and we're doing the best we can. There you go. There's my explanation of how freaking complicated.
But I didn't criticize the event itself. The event itself is beautiful, and I like what I mostly like about this event is that very strong players, they usually win and they play in the finals, like Magnus, like Hikaru, like Alireza, like Levon, like Maxim, Vashilagraf, and like MBL, and so on and so forth. So I don't see some strange names there. Sometimes you see a couple of strange names, but usually it's the event that is organized well. Yes, there is a very complication stuff with this division, but that could be fixed. So if this event survives the calendar, which will be extremely hard, the chess calendar, I mean, because chess calendar is so filled with so many events that now we have this Fisher random stuff going on. Next year. We have FIDE cycle, we have Grand Chess Tour, we have Vikensay, Norway chess, a lot of separate tournaments, we have online tournaments. I mean, it's a blessing to be a chess player now, I guess.
And there are more coming, by the way. I know that there are other organizers who want to get in, and you mentioned the Grand Chess Tour. They added, I think, 2 more events or something to their 2025 calendar.
Maybe I think they will add one event.
I thought it was one location, but it had a rapid, okay, never mind, doesn't matter.
I don't know. Event. I don't know. But unfortunately, we don't have a system. I think it's a huge problem about the chess world is that we don't have a system. Like, we have a lot of tournaments in tennis, but they are all in one system. We don't have a system. Like, you are doing your thing, FIDE is doing your thing, and
what you are saying is, I'm not going to name names in this because I don't need to, but I'm going to let you know that I have been making a pitch to anybody who will listen, the top organizers in the world, that says this stuff, that says we, as an ecosystem, Ilya, there is more money in chess here that is not representative of the commercial viability of the game than I would say any other sport. You have more
exactly.
billionaires. Imagine if in F1 someone could just enter and say, now it's my race, right? And everyone's going to be here, right? And we have more people with money doing stuff, and it is so disconnected that in some ways it's great for the players. It's great to have the top players, and even the online events pay well, but it also some ways hurts the game long term, because what you have is expectations from the players are here financially, whereas their required contributions are actually not very high. Very few of them have invested in online brands that have large social media followings and make efforts to do things that I think people would love. Like, I would love to follow Jan Nepomniachtchi on every train and plane and see what he's doing and have him give opinions, even if half of his opinions are critical of chess.com. I love it. I don't care. Like, show me a selfie, right? Give me something. And it sounds silly because I also hate that stuff. But I have, this is the world we live in, right?
I understand. I understand what
we
you're
don't
saying.
have, and I know because I've talked to major media partners, and I have tried to present what I believed was our best foot forward, and 2 criticisms came back. None of these players, 2 major criticisms. There were a lot of them, but there were 2 major ones.
Okay.
And this was dealing with, we have partners at Endeavor and IMG, which is International Media Group, and they do all kinds of stuff. And they said 2 major things. One, the players' brands themselves have no following. So we can't do the auxiliary value you bring where we say, hey, brands, consider, regardless of the product itself, we'll talk about the broadcast product, think about your reach. If they actually audit and look at these, they say Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura, and then who's this guy, Gotham Chess? And then what are these Botez sisters over here? What are they? Are they good or are they not good? And I say that non-disparagingly. I'm saying they're not Judith Polgar, right? And so, and obviously Alexander and Andrea are awesome. I love them, and they do amazing content. But I can't tell IMG that they're going to compete in the same event as Hikaru Nakamura. I can't do that, right?
For sure.
So you have this problem where the top players don't have any real value. They don't have any commercial value, and they don't have any motivation to invest in it. That's
true.
That was the one major criticism.
The second one?
The second one was we can't build a run of show, which is a broader programming. You can't build broader programming that doesn't fit a package like I know an NBA game is done in less than 3 hours, even if it goes to overtime. And I can sell a broader slot that fits into other programming. I can't sell, because then they go, so the highest stakes of chess is the world championship, right? Yeah, okay, but wait, you don't own the world championship, chess.com. No, we don't, but it's okay. Like, we'll bring partners to the table. Okay, but wait, is the game going to be over in an hour and a half? Or is it going to be over in 7 hours? Wait, or is it 4 hours? Is it this? Is it that? What exactly is going on here? So the beauty of chess is nobody owns chess. And the worst part about chess is nobody owns chess. This isn't the Super Bowl that the NFL owns. We actually don't have anybody who can herd the cats, who can rally the troops with any type of real power, despite, accusations people make about, the most powerful players in chess. The truth is nobody really actually has that much power because nobody owns the game. Anybody can do anything everywhere all at once. And if it really comes down to it, the players' lack of commercial viability, there's no selling against our ecosystem. I'm trying to build an ecosystem that can be sold against because of their individual Instagram reach or their individual YouTube reach, but we're not there. And you can't build programming around the current state of affairs that FIDE has. And FIDE was told that directly in calls with me and Emil Satofsky and IMG, and I can say that further, that is the truth, that this doesn't have equity value in the West because of the current product. So chess.com has the SCC, which, by the way, we was on ESPN too, which is really cool. And at least we have a program that is like, it's built in these segments where you know when it's going to be over, but it's not the highest stakes. It's only like $150,000. I'm not pretending that we're competing with FIDE, and despite all the accusations, I don't want to, but it is a problem. This is a problem, and I would love if everyone watched this podcast and was like, okay, let's bring people together. I would fly on a plane and bring the players together and say, hey, if we're serious, the amount of money being spent in our ecosystem is out of control compared to the actual commercially viable product. Why are we doing that? Why are we spending so much money event over event and we don't have anything that makes any sense? Come on, everybody. Let's do it. And it's something I don't even want to be an organizer in this, but we're willing to bring skin to the table. If the proper people want to play, let's do it. But we don't even need to be an organizer. We can be the partner and eyeballs and whatever. But the thing is, people are spending more money than they should be given the actual product, but they don't care. They don't care.
Sure. I also think that I was in Budapest in this General Assembly. The General Assembly was there. I wasn't there for sure, but I thought that FIDE gathers these people from Africa, from Asia. That's good. Okay, I don't have a problem with that. Also, FIDE always asks players, what do you think the best time control for the World Cup or something like that. But nobody talks to the organizers. I mean, where is the? We need a good hotel, a good place in Europe, and gather everybody in one place for 3 days. And let's sit and discuss. You have your tournaments. I have my tournaments.
If you help organize it, I am there. I will sign right now on this podcast. I will bring the weight of chess.com with me because I already know Eric, my partner in marriage of 16 years. At chess.com. We are ready. We are ready to play this game when the players are ready to come to the table. And
I think everybody will be happy to come and talk. I mean,
okay. I mean, let's do it.
We are the guys
we solved something, even if we didn't solve the Kramnik cheating discussion. We came together about something.
No. The situation with Kramnik will solve itself. Believe me, at some point.
Okay.
At some point, because you are doing the same thing actually, but you don't understand that for sure. Okay. So
I love hearing that because I believe we're on the same team. Anyway, go ahead. Yeah. So what's next?
So we discussed the chesscom, we discussed the World Championship match, and what did I want to say? I wanted to discuss something very, very important, but I'm so thrilled with this chess investors conference idea.
I love this idea.
I've been talking to Arkady about that and to some other people, but I think it should be organized by FIDE. That's my most important point. I mean, otherwise, this is the governing body of our game. Anyway, and
we don't have to. I would love for there to be conversation that moves the ball forward. It doesn't have to be like chess.com doesn't believe that it has to be blitz. We don't. Just like classical. By the way, there's a lot of evidence to suggest that if we could just break through, one of the things golf has going for it is it has what we call second monitor watching. People just throw on golf and they just keep it on the other monitor. They check in with it. It goes from like they tee off at like 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. But when the marquee match happens, everybody stops and it goes from the Golf Network to NBC or CBS, right? When the main golfers that you care about, right? When Tiger Woods tees off, we could do a similar model. You could actually find ways to do classical chess, even if it was a little bit faster, but still high quality, but build out a program where you can actually say, we're still accomplishing 6-hour chess, but we're building it in blocks where we know we can actually say this is prime time versus. Anyway, I guess I get too excited about this. I think there are ways to do this.
I like that because you've been commenting a lot of tournaments. I've been doing that myself. I think there is a way to make it not like people say. It's impossible to make chess like very entertaining and interesting. I agree with that. It's not basketball. It's not hockey. It's not football. It's not tennis. It's very hard to compete with any game in sports.
Physical
like tennis.
Sports. Yeah.
Even snooker is much more fun because the situation changes almost every 5-10 seconds. And here, Hikaru could think for 10 minutes. I'm not sure what to do in these 10 minutes. Nothing is happening. Right. I don't know what's happening in his head. So it's very hard to make chess as entertaining as other sports. But we could try at least.
We could do better than we're doing.
Yeah, we could do much better. We could do much better. We could be more organized. We can have one time control for classical chess, one time control for rapid, one time control for blitz. And I think that classical chess is dying. That's what I hear now from many players, many coaches. And it's not the process that somebody is killing it, chesscom or something. No, it's AI. It's everything. It's the knowledge of opening theory, the knowledge of plans. It's useless to gather people and they sit for 6 hours and they know what's going on. So
yeah, exactly. Especially, I think you hit it really the nail on the head. It's not chess.com. It's not FIDE. It's not anyone. What happened is computers have changed the game, literally, not just the metaphor. Sure. And so you've got preparation that extends beyond, and so the players aren't put as often in the spot you want to see, which is the sporting elements, the nerves, the this, that. You don't get it because they're bringing so much preparation to the table. So part of the reason we like faster time controls is just because we can at least manufacture, some drama a little bit. Right now, do we want to go as far as what's happening in London right now with pieces falling off the board? I don't know, right? I mean, there's criticisms of that. People don't like that.
No, I don't see any point in that. I mean, pieces are falling. It's not a tragedy. Pieces are falling, but the players are not doing the Kasparov's faces. They should do, when pieces are falling, they should, oh no, I lost this game. Oh, that's it. And he should fall down. Then it's a tragedy. And when the pieces are falling, they say, okay, it's bye-bye. Let's go.
Exactly.
So it's not working. The drama is not working. But anyway, chess could be interesting. Chess could be very entertaining. Once you get a person into chess, he stays forever. That's an interesting thing, and nobody really thinks about that. I know some people I've driven into chess. They stay there. It's impossible to get out. I'm sure you know these examples. We are an example, of that.
We have a lot.
Fortunately or unfortunately, but it's true. But how do you see the future of the game, like in 50 years, let's say?
Oh wow!
Is there a future? Is there a future to the game?
That's a big question.
Not in the 1 year perspective, but in the 50-year perspective.
Well, it's whenever we ask existential questions like that, we probably we're going to avoid the filter of, hopefully our planet is still here in 50 years, right? Because of politics and war and anything else. I do believe, yes, I'm an optimist. I would say I'm a realistic optimist or let's get to work optimist. But I do believe that we've seen such a generational shift. We have data on chess.com about this. We've seen that chess has impacted the younger audience with some of the ways that we've made it a little bit more memey and fun, and it's on the short form content, because as we evolve as humans, we no longer do this, we do this. So we've learned how to present the game in more of a highlight reel type of style. We've seen a shift in our demographics go down to 18 to 24, which is a really good sign for the future. I mean, I have two boys in high school, and I've been doing this for 16 years. So this isn't just like a brag of chess.com now. I mean, for literally the first 15 years or 14 years, it was no one gave a shit about any. And now my kids come home and they're like, Dad, everybody's playing on chess.com, right? So something has happened. And because what you said is true, that chess is a lifelong game, one of the things that used to be held against us, it's not sexy enough. It's not fast enough. Where's the fog of war? Where's the this?
It's not sexy at all.
It was all these things. It's not exciting enough. Where's the graphics? Where's the maps that change? Where's the fog of war? Now we actually hear, especially from people who go from learning the game young into being a young professional, having some disposable income and looking for things, they get to come back to chess because it's the same game they learned when they were 7. It actually has an advantage over League of Legends and all the crap that changes all the time, or the rules and the keys that change. So we've actually heard anecdotally that the reverse is now true. And then as we've expanded into more markets, we've heard people say, chess has real potential here to grow, because in other video games, you can't play video games at a high level over the internet because the latency is too bad. And we all complain about lag and argue about chess.com or Lee Chess, whatever. But the truth is the latency in chess is very, very, it doesn't even exist compared to other games. So we actually do have the potential, if we could pull our proverbial bleep together here as a crew. I think there is a potential where there is some sort of ecosystem that is both so global, online, that comes together in the right spots for over-the-board chess. And I think when you consider that chess is different, because no matter how good you are at NBA 2K, you are not LeBron James. No matter how good you are at League of Legends, you are not casting spells in real life. You're not a wizard. Chess is the same game. And we actually have some potential there, I think, that is untapped. And when I think about that, and I think about how much younger the demographic has become, and we have the data on that, it makes me believe there has to be a future for this game. Now, what about the chess itself? Will it be Fisher random, right? Do we have to fully commit to something that completely avoids prep that I think humans could memorize with AI? Are there other variants that get popular? Is there some other type of, whether it's like a doubles bug house game or other thing. Because one thing we've done studies, Ilya, where we've shown chess to beginners. And the one thing I do think that Fischer Random has potential on, this freestyle movement, I don't know that it's necessary, but because I think chess with faster time controls is still the most exciting product versus Fischer Random classical. But regardless of that discussion, we've shown chess to beginners. And even if the chess pieces are set up differently, they still know it's chess. So the one thing freestyle has going for it is it's not inherently an unmarketable product to beginners. Even though the rules are different and the pieces are set up different, a brand new human to the game looks at that chessboard and associates chess. They don't instantly know. It's the reason half of them set up the board wrong and they don't have the white square on the right? Because they don't give a shit. They don't even know. That's actually important, because I think there's a potential where freestyle could solve, or Fischer Random could solve a problem of high-level chess players still being engaged in these random positions that don't have opening prep, and it's not inherently an unmarketable product to mass audiences. So that is the one thing I think has potential there because of that. And if we assume Fischer Random or some other variant or classical chess remains too hard for humans to solve, and I give the answer that I won't repeat about the demographic getting younger, about the fact that there is more ways to engage with chess than ever before, I have to believe that unless we blow ourselves up, chess is only going to get more popular, and it has advantages that other games don't have. So that is my optimist answer. I do believe there's a future for the game because of that.
Do you see that in the numbers? I'm very bad at preparing for interviews. I'm sorry, but I don't know if you publish your numbers, because, for example, Lichess, they publish every month. They publish the amount of rated games on the website, and I don't see any progress there for 4 years. Do you have any numbers you can share? That is there a progress in new subscribers, new accounts? How does it work?
We have hit a plateau again, although we're starting to see some numbers right now headed into Q4. But historically we had the pandemic, a boom, right? We had PogChamps, which again people jump to the Queen's Gambit. Actually, our PogChamps boom was actually just as big. Then the Queen's Gambit, and then we were flat, and then we had this last year boom that we've internally called the short form content boom, because the only thing we could associate is that all of our creators really jumped in together into TikTok, Instagram, short form videos, and we saw this massive shift. But at our peak, February 23, we were at 15 million games a day. We're down to, not 15 million games, 15 million daily active. We're at 30 million games. We were at 15 million.
30 million games a day?
A day.
Whoa.
But at the peak of February 23, we were at 15 million daily active users, and I think close to 40 million games a day. Now we're at about 8 million daily active users and 30 million games a day. So we have fallen off from that point of view. But to your point as well, it's not like we saw the pandemic and then it came down to this, right? What we see is plateaus, because like you've said, chess struggles with a PR issue. Chess struggles with exposure to people. Chess struggles
with marketing, let's say.
With marketing, like I said, PR. But once you get in, you tend to have a really high LTV, lifetime value of your customer. And we were actually told this during that time when there were some audits, and without getting into, because we're not a public company yet, so not all of our numbers are available to the public, and I can't share all of them. But what I will say is that we were told by consulting firms who kind of audited the global chess market and looked at it, they said, this is crazy. You guys shouldn't be compared to other best-in-class games, like any type of Fortnite or Clash Royale, others, because those games churn way more than you do. You guys are more comparable to lifestyle products like Strava and Spotify and Duolingo and the New York Times.
I agree. I completely agree.
And they said that's where the data matches up. That's also where we share a lot of customers. And what the difference is that lifestyle products have a hard time getting into someone's life because we all have our own habits. We have the things that we're doing. Like we have the things that we do every day. But once it gets involved, if someone likes it, not only do they stick with it, but it tends to be very recession proof because people will hold on to things that they justify adds quality to their life. Like they will keep their Spotify subscription even when times are hard because they're like, or Strava healthier, or I'm not giving up my New York Times subscription. That's the only thing I'm not giving up, right? And so we've seen a lot of that. And so while we have struggled to experience exponential growth at times like other games can when they launch Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson skin on Fortnite, we tend to keep our customer base very happy. And what that means in terms of how we've approached growing the game, it's why we've considered how can maybe we help in bringing more eyeballs in? How can we tell better stories and make ourselves more equatable to the Queen's Gambit, the Beth Harmons? Like, how do we get more media going? Because we've seen that if we can get chess in front of people, they tend to stick around. And again, there's always churn. People do come in and go out. But it's much better for us than any other video games. I already made the comparison. And I think, so again, where we're at right now, we have about 8 million daily active users. We're at about somewhere between 45 and 50 monthly active 45 million monthly active users. We have over 1 million paying subscribers, and we believe we can do much better in all of those areas. We believe that we can, because if you think about it, that's 50 million people who play chess every month. That's awesome, and 8 million a day. But we have 180 million people who registered. At some point, 180 million people said, I'm going to make chess a part of my life. But you know what?
Yeah.
Of 3 million people who sign up every month, we're lucky if 300,000 of them are still there the next month.
Sure, but that's okay. That's a hard game. It's a hard game.
Anyway, but that's some of the numbers there. I didn't come prepared for a lot of numbers either, so I'm also bad at interviews.
No, but it's enough for me. There is one guy who is one of the most popular people in the world, and he's making some nasty comments about chess. Danny,
Elon Musk.
Yes, I have a favor to ask. Can you contact him from chesscom and says what's his problem? I think his problem is that he doesn't know how to play chess, and he's upset about that.
Well, did you see our team trolled him so well? He did this recent one, and our team responded like, "What's your elo?" Right, which is we have a really good,
I think he tries to play and he sees he sucks like many of us, including me, and then he starts blaming the game. I don't know why he's saying that.
We don't have any contacts to Elon Musk, just for the record. We do know that he has had an account on chess.com, but it's not as active. Like we are able to kind of keep track of
really? So his contact details, just contact him through your chesscom system and ask him.
Well, I don't know that. I mean, these days he's obviously too busy with his platform wars and politics. But I don't understand his goal either. But it is kind of funny, and I think our team, who are very very good at the social media banter, they do a good job of razzing him whenever he does it. So yeah, I don't even know. I don't know what his deal is, why he hates on our game. But What's the deal?
Last question, Danny. We expect to see some new documentary in January, right? Or somewhere. In the beginning of next year, it was announced on Netflix. What do you expect from that? Do you expect the same interest as to Queen's Gambit, or?
I don't. I'll be pessimistic here rather than optimistic, because I just don't think it's realistic to expect. I think the Queen's Gambit was super special in regards to it wasn't just this really fascinating story, and the editorial and creative of the show was fascinating regardless of chess, but it really tapped into people who had this magical thing inside of them to I want to get better at chess again. Like we saw that in the searches. Like the data was not
for sure.
Chess for free. It was, how do I become a chess master, or where to learn chess? It was actually fascinating. So I just don't think so. But what I have been told by Netflix is the Queen's Gambit was viewed by 68, maybe 70 million people. It was one of the most watched shows at the time. Untold as a product, which is this sports documentary series.
Untold?
Untold. It's so Untold as in the untold truth, the untold story. Yeah. So that is what this episode is. And Untold itself has more than double monthly viewers who view Untold. But again, they view all the episodes, everything from Jake Paul to Monty Teo and college football.
It's like 25 minutes summaries of the field. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the product itself, the brand, the IP of Untold has way more viewers than the Queen's Gambit does, but it's a different audience, right? They're watching a lot of different stuff. And so, but what I will say as far as what to expect with the documentary, I mean, Eric and I filmed with them last year. It's been ongoing for a while. As soon as the as soon as the lawsuit was over, we were free to talk with Netflix, and they came here to Salt Lake City and they filmed with Eric and I for actually 3 days. We did a ton of we talked to them a ton. I know that they've talked with both Hans and Magnus. So as far as touching base with the people who were part of the controversy, they did that. What exactly they're going to do besides tell all of our untold story, to use the pun. I mean, they're going to tell all of our story. I think it'll be fascinating. I personally can't wait to hear what Hans has to say and what Magnus has to say. And they'll obviously hear my perspective on what really went down. And it's going to be interesting. I'll say that. But by the way, it's not the only thing.
So there is some untold story.
Yeah. I mean, I can talk about it loosely because we're supposed to not talk about it because that's what gives Netflix their exclusivity. But obviously what went down was not just Magnus Carlsen's accusation of Hans Niemann or lack of an accusation that led to chess.com and we uninvited him from our global championship. That revealed or confirmed to a lot of people that Hans Niemann had a long history with chess.com, which ultimately led to us feeling in a really bad spot. You could argue whether we handled it well, but the spot that we were in was sort of justifying our actions against the theory that we were somehow in cahoots with Magnus, which we were not. But we had to provide some information. So we did the Hans Niemann report, and then he sued us. But basically, there's a lot of details in regards to what actually happened, behind the scenes on that, and that's what it's going to be about. So yeah, it should be interesting.
Okay. I have only one question in respect with this Hans story. Do you think that after this lawsuit, like, how to put it? I'll put it straightforwardly. Like, every cheater is happy now. Like, you cannot touch anybody. Do you feel that?
I don't think that's true because I mean we're closing people publicly now. Again, there's going to be another GM that was closed publicly. Just it's going to be coming out here pretty soon. Like we're not operating with that type of fear because the only reason Hans had legs, if you will, which by the way, his case was dismissed in a federal court with prejudice. Yeah. For the record, the only reason he had legs is because we did the report. When we did the report, he was putting information out that suggested we were defaming him. When it comes to the general terms of service that we operate in and what we do for closing people, we actually give them way less legs to sue than they would ever like to say. So, I mean, we've been getting threatened to be sued for years, right? And we've had some that have gone as far as arbitration that people don't even know about, and we deal with it, and people lose and they go away. The only difference was that was so public and in such a high profile because of what went down in St. Louis that he had the opportunity to do what he did. I don't believe that it's a precedent, and that was really important to us, which is why we went as far as we did, and that that's our perspective. So, but again, I understand that there's other views in regards to the fact that we ultimately did agree to move on. He is back on chess.com. People feel that there's some precedent to believe that if you go hard enough, you'll get your way. That's not how we see it. And I hope that if we continue to close people and if we do a better job than we have been, as you said, we have a PR problem. If we get better at closing people, engaging in the right amount of capital punishment, and if we can get on top of some of the feelings people have here, maybe those actions will speak louder than my words saying, I don't think that we're afraid to close people for cheating, like people would say. And I hope that bears out. I hope that bears out in the coming months and whatever.
But honestly, it's my very honest position, and I think that yes, cheating is hard. It's a big problem, but it's not what chess is about. I mean, yes, it's some. We always talk about it. First of all, because it's interesting. Second, because it's mysterious. It's bad for the game, but the game stays, and you can play. You can play safely. You can play with your friends. You can play online. When I play, I don't play now, but when I play, maybe a couple of times there were some problems, but I don't see it I see it as an existential problem to the elite chess. Yes, that's for sure. It should be taken care of much better offline and online. I'm 100% sure. But chess as a game is not suffering from cheating. Basically, I don't think so. When I play, I win, I lose, I win, I lose, and I see that I lose because I make mistakes, and that's what I encourage everybody to think. That when you lose, you don't lose because your opponent is cheating. You lose because it's a very hard game and it's impossible to play. Okay,
I couldn't agree with it. I couldn't agree more with everything you said. And
thank you very much, Danny. I wish you all the best and in everything.
And I appreciate you having me. Thank you. I really,
Thank you.
I really.
Bye.
It's been great.
Thank you, Danny. Bye.